Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Political Ray. We got some stories for you going on today. We're going to get into these things, but first, just remember you can follow me here on Rumble, also on X at the Political Ray. I am live every morning, 7:30 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, just ahead of the Rumble lineup. So please check it out. Please follow. Appreciate you being here, especially this early in the morning. But hey, I figure maybe give you something else to listen to while you're getting ready for work, what have you, depending on what time zone you're in. But I'm here just ahead of the Rumble lineup, so we'll get into some things. We've got a Tesla Arson who has been let go in Kansas City due to some transgender issues, according to the judge. Now we'll get into that. I think it's ridiculous, but that's my opinion. You guys can let me know. We've got a Maine teacher making threats against the Trump administration. Person should be in jail. It's not free speech. It's active calls to violence. My personal opinion, it's not free speech. This person should be arrested. We'll get into that. And old Shifty, Adam Shifty, has put on an assault. He's putting forth an assault weapons ban. Surprise, surprise. Democrats leading talking points at its finest, but we'll get into that as well. And we've got the Ukraine minerals deal that finally has been signed. I've talked about it before. I think it's a good thing, both for Russia and for Ukraine and the United States. So we'll get into that. But anyway, the first one that I'm going to get into here is the Tesla arson in Kansas City. Now, this is from the Post Millennial. This person has been released due to lack of gender affirming care in jails. I think this is a ridiculous talking point. I think the judge just looked for any kind of reason to let this person go because she's not a judge. She's an activist. But that's just my opinion. You guys can let me know what you think. I think this story is ridiculous. I don't think this person should be let go. I think they should be in jail and they should face the consequences. But because they're a trans person, they don't have to face consequences just because of their identity. I think it's ridiculous. It's stupid. People should be held accountable for their actions. This is a huge thing on the left and the right as far as politicians go, but I digress. This person, 19-year-old suspect accused of setting fire to a Tesla dealership in Kansas City, has been released from federal custody after a judge cited that the individual's ADHD diagnosis and limited access to gender-affirming care in detention as factors in the decision. This is ridiculous. When you're sent to jail for committing a crime, you don't have the right to any kind of gender affirming care, what have you. Look, jails are paid for by the taxpayers in most parts. There are some private ones out there, but for the most part, look, I'm not expecting people who commit crimes and go to jail to get their gender affirming care. This is a ridiculous situation that should not be. Look, this judge, like I said, is an activist. They're not a judge. They're just they're looking for anything to let this person off. That's my opinion. You can let me know what you think. Owen McIntyre, a resident of Parkville, Missouri, was arrested earlier this month in Boston in connection with a March incident in which a Molotov cocktail was thrown at a Kansas City Tesla dealership. The attack caused damage to two Tesla Cybertrucks and did not result in any injuries. Thank God. But despite the seriousness of the charges, a federal judge last week approved McIntyre's release, according to a report by Fox 4. McIntyre's attorney argued that continued detention without disrupt serious and ongoing medical treatment, including care for depression and gender-affirming care, services that McIntyre reportedly began receiving in March. The defense also emphasizes that McIntyre had no prior criminal history and was unlikely to pose a flight risk. Look, this just points this will set a precedent that I don't think anybody wants to set. This will let people know, well, look, as long as you just identify as trans, you can't get your gender affirming care in jail, so they'll have to let you out. Either that or the jails will have to provide that kind of care, which either way is ridiculous and stupid and shouldn't be happening. Look, that's it. You committed a crime, you go to jail. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life, you're in jail. That's it. You committed a crime. Actions have consequences. I don't think you should be getting gender affirming care in jail. You can disagree with me if you want to. You let me know if you do. I think this is ridiculous. Despite the seriousness of the charges, a federal judge last week approved McIntyre's role. Oh, I already read that part. Anyway, as Attorney General Pam Bondi has labeled attacks on Tesla dealerships as domestic terrorism, rightfully so. Though McIntyre has not been charged with domestic terrorism-related offenses, let me be extremely clear to anyone who still wants to firebomb a Tesla property. You will not evade us, Bondi previously stated in a press release. You will be arrested. You will be prosecuted. You will spend decades behind bars. It's not worth it. Unless, of course, maybe you identify as a trans. Since you can't get your gender-affirming care in jail, they'll just let you go. Again, I will say this sets a precedent that I don't think anybody wants. You break the law, you have to be held accountable for said crime. McIntyre faces 2 federal charges: unlawful possession of an unregistered destructive device and malicious damage by fire to property used in interstate commerce. McIntyre is scheduled to appear in federal court again on Thursday. Look, again, I will say, just because you can't get gender-affirming care within a jail is not a reason to be let go. Again, it's my opinion, but I think this is ridiculous. I don't think that this judge is acting within any kind of lawful authority. I think that they're activists, and they were looking for any kind of reason to let this person go. Even though I think that there should be terrorism charges against this person. Look, the whole Tesla thing has been going on for a while. If you are terrorizing, this is terrorism, in my opinion. You're scaring people out of simply owning a Tesla, even though the majority of them are Democrats who bought the Tesla when the Democrats were pushing the EV mandates. But anyway, I'm not going to ramble on about that. This, again, it's a ridiculous story. I cannot believe that this person is getting let out for this. I really hope come their court date that they have to face the consequences. We'll see. I guess we'll find out. I mean, it would not shock me in the least if this person just gets let go because they can't have their gender affirming care within the jail. It's nuts. I cannot believe this. Anyway, speaking of insane, in Maine is still making headlines because of the whole transgender, men and women sports thing. Well, apparently now there's a Maine teacher. This is according to ABC. There's a Maine teacher that has been making threats against President Trump and his administration. This cannot be the case. Look, I am all for free speech. I am in favor of it. This is not free speech. When you're actively calling for people to be murdered, killed, what have you, it's active calls to violence. It's not free speech. This shouldn't be happening. But anyway, take a look at this story, again from ABC. Maine teacher makes threats against President Trump, members of his administration on social media. Let's see. United States Secret Service has confirmed that to Maine's total coverage that it is aware of Waterville public school teacher who made a series of Facebook posts that call for President Trump and members of his administration to be killed. Again, it's not free speech. When you're actively calling for violence, that's not free speech. In a post shared to Facebook shortly before 3:15 p.m. Tuesday, the Waterville senior high school teacher called upon Secret Service to take out every single person who supports Trump's illegal, immoral, unconstitutional acts. Doesn't say what, she's just spewing. In the same post, the teacher said she was not talking about assassinating Trump. That's exactly what she's contradicting herself, but anyway. Because he was duly elected by the American people. The teacher wrote in a subsequent post that she did not mean all Republicans should die, but that those in the room with Trump who are permitting and approving his egregious actions need to be held accountable. Well, that doesn't mean that you can call for violence against them. No. In another subsequent post, the teacher said that she believes Trump and every sycophant he has surrounded himself with needs to die. So she's just flip-flopping, but she's actively calling for violence against these people. This stuff is not free speech. It shouldn't be happening. Waterville Police Chief William Bonney said in a statement that the Waterville Police Department is aware of the social media posts allegedly made by a Waterville school employee regarding supporters of Trump. We do not comment on open matters, but rest assured that we have collaborated with our partners in federal law enforcement and at the school to ensure the safety of everyone in the community, especially our young people. We expect no further releases on this matter in the immediate future. Okay. They're aware of it. I think that there should have been action taken already. It's just my opinion, though. Maybe they need more proof. I don't know. Like, I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe they need more proof. I don't know. Anyway, in an email to Maine's Total Coverage, a Secret Service agent said the agency is aware of at least one of the posts made by the teacher. The agent also said the Secret Service does not comment on matters involving protective intelligence as a matter of practice. I can understand that. Anyway, a spokesperson for the FBI Boston Division said in an email to Maine's Total Coverage that the FBI cannot confirm nor deny the existence of an investigation in keeping with U.S. Department of Justice policy. That's true. People, investigators, FBI, police officers, what have you, they're not allowed to comment on an ongoing investigation. They can't even say if there is one because it could affect the outcome of the investigation. I understand that too. Maine's Total Coverage has contacted Waterville Superintendent of Schools Peter Hallen with a request for an update on the teacher's unemployment status, but Hallen's office has not replied back as of Wednesday evening. Maybe I think that she shouldn't be a teacher. I think the superintendent should have, as soon as somebody has a post actively calling for violence, that person should be fired. Just my opinion. But if you're calling for active violence against other human beings, you're not a good person. You shouldn't be a teacher. That's for sure. The teacher was still listed on the Waterville's senior high school staff webpage as of Wednesday evening. Maine's Total Coverage is choosing not to share the teacher's name because no charges have been filed against her. Now, I understand that. They don't want to, put this person in a bad predicament because people are evil. You put this person's name out there, they're going to get a lot of hate. There's a lot of evil people out there. I don't condone violence, not against anybody. But this person, hopefully they have been fired. I hope that they have. That's just my personal view on it. But she's actively calling for violence against the sitting president of the United States and his administration. They shouldn't be employed. They should be in jail. But maybe. We'll see. Maybe something comes out of that. But, I don't know. We'll see. Go ahead and move on to old Adam Shifty here. Now, everybody likes Adam Shifty, right? Old Pinocchio himself. This guy is something else. Now, he's put up a new thing wanting to ban assault weapons, but none of these Democrats can actually define what an assault weapon is. It's a very, very broad term that could be applied to an AR-15, a pistol, a 9mm, 40, what have you, a Glock, whatever the case may be. It could be applied to a hammer. A hammer could be considered as an assault weapon. It could be applied to a knife that you carry around in your pocket, a pocket knife. It could be an assault weapon. An assault weapon just specifically means a weapon that you use to assault someone. So the term's very, very broad. I think that this is stupid. The first thing if the government disarms their people, then the people have no power. The people should not be afraid of the government. The government should be afraid of its people. I believe in that wholeheartedly. The second that they're able to take away our Second Amendment rights, the First Amendment goes right out the window. Without the Second Amendment to protect the First, we don't have any rights anymore. That's just how it is. Look at Australia. Look at the UK. They have the people in those countries have no power. The only reason why we still have freedom of speech and the rights that we have is because of the Second Amendment. Governments should fear their people. The Second Amendment was put in place so that we could fight against a tyrannical government. Taking away the Second Amendment just negates everything that we stand for. That's just my personal opinion. And you can tug on the heartstrings and what about the kids? But I've got some counter arguments for that too. So you can come at me if you want to. But take a look at this. This is old Adam Shifty talking about proposing another weapons ban. So check this out. You let me know what you think.
Today I will be introducing the assault weapons ban of 2025, a bill that would ban the sale, manufacture, import, and transfer of military-style assault weapons. Since 2006, there have been 486 mass shootings involving assault weapons. Hundreds and hundreds of Americans have been killed in these mass shootings.
Let me just fill you in on something, because the number that he quotes with the mass shootings isn't entirely accurate as far as, look, mass shootings, when somebody says mass shootings, you think of a mall, a school, somebody with a gun going in. But they also include gang violence, gang on gang shootings, what have you. They include that. If you take out the gang shootings, if you take that out and declassify it, make it not classified as a mass shooting, that number drops drastically. Just look into it. I encourage everyone to do your own research because this is something that they run on quite a bit. But anyway, I digress.
This bill is a way to attack that massive threat to our safety and security. Dianne Feinstein introduced the first assault weapons ban 31 years ago after a school shooting in Stockton, California. For 10 years, that bill had a dramatic impact on mass shootings and mass casualties. But when that expired, mass fatalities and gun shootings went up by 236%. The impact was that dramatic. It's time to pass an assault weapons ban again. It's time to protect our communities from senseless gun violence. It's time to bring back that powerful common sense reform again. It's time for the assault weapons ban of 2025.
Now, keep in mind that they don't ever classify or define what an assault weapon actually is. Again, it could be anything. It could be an AR-15. It could be a pistol. It could be a knife. It could be a hammer. It could be a screwdriver. Anything could be classified as an assault weapon. They don't define it, and they do it intentionally, so that they cannot define, so that they can just put a blanket ban on everything. This is what they do. This is how they operate. But anyway, take a look at the article that we got here from, this is from The Hill, and we'll take a look at the article, and we'll read through this real quick. Let's see. Schiff, Murphy introduce assault weapons ban. Let's see. Senator Adam Schiff joined Senator Chris Murphy and other Democrats on Wednesday to reintroduce an assault weapons ban, a proposal to prohibit the purchase and possession of high-powered semi-automatic firearms such as the popular AR-15. Anyway, the bill has virtually no chance of becoming law because Republicans control the White House and both chambers of Congress, but Democrats see it as an important marker in the gun control debate in Washington, which has seen little movement since 1994. Assault weapons ban expired more than 20 years ago. Let me just, to all the Democrats, I doubt anybody, maybe they'll see this, but just a question. You can let me know. Where was the outrage for assault weapons and firearm bans, what have you? Where was the outrage and the wanting to do this when there was not one but two different shooters that took aim at President Trump? Where was your outcry then? I really, really want to know, why weren't you screaming about it from the top of mountaintops at that point? Because you were okay with that one? You were okay with that shooter? Let me know. I mean, I'm genuinely curious. I want to know your opinion on it. Schiff and the Democrat colleagues will appear with advocates from several gun control groups, including Brady, Giffords, and Newton Action Alliance, to announce the legislation at a press conference on Capitol Hill on Wednesday afternoon. The Democratic senators noted that mass shootings in the United States declined by 37% and produced fewer fatalities per event. when the assault weapons ban was in effect from 94 to 2004. Look, let me just state too, where in the majority of these mass shootings that they are talking about, the mass majority of them, where do they happen? They happen in gun-free zones. Why? Because they know that there's nobody there to oppose them, so they can do the most damage in the least amount of time. A lot of these people, they don't care about being killed, but every single one of these mass shootings that they talk about, they happen in the majority of them. I can't say all, because probably not all of them, but the vast majority of these mass shootings take place in gun-free zones. I'm not, because they know that there's nobody there to oppose them. Look, I've said this. Anybody that knows me knows that I've said it 100 times. But an armed society is a polite society. If you've got somebody who thinks that they're going to go and commit one of these mass shootings, they're going to think twice about it because they don't know who else is armed. That's just, I mean, there's people out there that are going to do it regardless because there's evil people out there. But it's the people that can commit these crimes. It's not the gun. Anyway, before I just keep rambling about that, we'll move on here. Let's see. A November Gallup poll shows that 52% of Americans said that they favor a ban on assault weapons, though higher percentages of Americans supported the idea in the past. I'd like to know how many people of the people that they polled for that poll. I'd like to know how many of them were actually Republican versus Democrat. I'd like to know that. Overall, 56% of Americans think gun control laws should be more strict, according to the Gallup survey from last year. Look, I'll tell you, in my personal opinion, I think the gun laws right now are fairly pretty good. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, every time I go and purchase a firearm, I have to go through the background check every single time. Even though I have a concealed weapon carry, I have bought many weapons before it, but every time I go and purchase a firearm, I have to go through the background check. See, the gun show loophole is a myth. It's been debunked already, but go check out. You can go watch Steven Crowder. He actually debunked it a couple of times. You can go watch him do it. It's just a lie. But anyway, Schiff, a first-term senator, is taking over as a lead sponsor of the assault weapons ban from former Senator Dianne Feinstein, who made it one of her signature issues during her long Senate career. Feinstein died in September of 23. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you guys can let me know what you think about this. I gave you my 2 cents on it. I think it's stupid. I don't think that banning guns is gonna solve the gun epidemic. Because looking at drugs, you ban drugs, make it illegal to partake in drugs, what have you. It still happens. It doesn't negate the fact that people still do it. So there's that. So we'll go ahead and move on to the Ukraine. Finally signs the minerals deal with the United States. Now, I've said this before. This is a good thing. It shores up American interest, what have you, within Ukraine. It gives a security backing to Ukraine. Now, they'll say that there's no actual security, what have you, details within the deal. But if you've got United States citizens within the country helping to produce these minerals, ship them back to the U.S., what have you, it shores up security within the region. And Putin's coming across the aisle and saying, hey, I'd like to have a minerals deal too. We've got plenty of minerals here in Russia. Hey, U.S., we can help you out too. It shores up security within the region. In my opinion, it's going to help push along the peace deals. And, we almost had a ceasefire. We did just over, the Easter holiday, but, yeah, it went away fairly quickly. It was just over the Easter weekend, but whatever. It shores up security. It's a good thing. Just my opinion. You guys let me know. But I think this is fantastic. It finally happened because Zelensky flip-flopped a bunch of times over this. He was supposed to do it during the first time he came to the White House. We all remember that little tiff about President Trump and J.D. Vance getting on his case and everything else. But it's finally happened. So now this is from NBC rather. U.S. and Ukraine sign long-awaited minerals deal to rebuild Kiev and repay aid. Now, again, it's a good thing. The White House said Wednesday night that it had signed an economic partnership with Ukraine that, after weeks of volatile negotiations, will give Washington access to some of the war-torn nation's critical minerals and natural resources. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in the agreement, established as the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund, will allow Washington to invest alongside Ukraine to unlock Kiev's lucrative assets, accelerate its economic recovery, and provide the repayment that President Trump has demanded for the U.S. military aid. This is something that I wholeheartedly agree with. This is just something that President Trump has put in there saying, look, all those billions and billions of dollars that you have got from taxpayer dollars from here in the United States. Now, I understand it didn't all just go to him in one big push. It was allocated over several years, months, what have you. It doesn't just go to him. And a lot of it was in the form of military weapons, ammunition, that kind of stuff as well. I understand that, but it's still billions and billions of American dollars that just went to Ukraine. So I think the repayment is a good thing. I think we should be repaid for all that. Many people say that we shouldn't. I don't know why, but I think we should be repaid. Anyway, let's see, where was I? Right there. As the president has said, the United States is committed to helping facilitate the end of this crucial and senseless war. This agreement signals clearly to Russia that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine. Now, I agree with that. I don't think Putin was in the right just going into Ukraine, and when President Trump says that this would never happen if he was still president, I tend to agree with that. But I'm of the person, I like to think, look, President Trump getting into office this time versus when Biden got in, I think it's actually better this time because it gave people a contrast of what it was like, because they had 3 years under President Trump, and it was 3 because the last year was kind of negated because of COVID. And then you had 4 years under Biden, and what that would look like, it's a good contrast. And people didn't like what they saw, so we got President Trump back in office. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But President Trump envisioned this partnership between the American people and the Ukraine people to show both sides' commitment to lasting peace and prosperity in Ukraine. He added, no state or person who financed or supplied the Russian war machine will be allowed to benefit from the reconstruction of Ukraine. Now, there's a lot of talk. Look, the UK, they were still buying billions of dollars of oil from Russia during this whole war. So you got that as well. Let's see. We got Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and the Ukraine Deputy Minister. I'm gonna slaughter her name, but it's Yulia Severidenko. Maybe I got it right. Maybe I did. Anyway, Severidenko, Ukraine's economic minister, said on X that it is the Ukrainian state that determines what and where to extract, and the subsoil remains under Ukrainian ownership. That's fine. Again, I'm fine with that. Ukraine and the United States will jointly manage and maintain co-ownership of the investment fund, with neither side holding a dominant vote. She says it will be financed by new Ukrainian oil, gas, and critical mineral licenses, with 50% of all revenue from the licensing going toward the fund. The other half is going back to repaying the United States, and rightfully so. The fund will then invest in extraction projects for critical minerals, oil, and gas, as well as related infrastructure and processing. Specific investment projects will be selected jointly by Ukraine and the U.S. Importantly, the fund may invest exclusively in Ukraine, she said on X. I agree with all this. I'm fine with it. Again, as long as we get paid back for the billions of dollars that we sent over there, I'm fine with it. She suggested in her post that the United States will also contribute to the fund, though did not elaborate on how much, and added that the contributions to the fund will not be taxed in either jurisdiction. Okay. Let's see. Russian former President Dmitry sought to spin the deal for a loss for Kiev, saying in a post on Telegram that Trump has finally broken the Kiev regime into paying for American aid with minerals. Look, we gave you billions of dollars. You got to pay us back somehow. You can't cry about it. Now they will have to pay for military supplies with national wealth of a disappearing country. Let's see. That was from the deputy chair of Russian Security Council. Added the quality and value of the Ukraine's rare earth elements remain unclear, particularly because up-to-date geological surveys need to be carried out. Experts say that the map for Ukraine are up to 30 years old, and that while President Trump has referred to Ukraine's mineral wealth as being 500 billion, the value of the country's rare earth minerals is closer to 12 billion. Well, okay. I mean, we're still going to get paid back some money. So maybe it's more. They just said they're not sure. So it could be more. Rare earth is called rare for a reason. They have a lot, Trump said in a cabinet meeting earlier Wednesday. We have made a deal with where our money is secure, where we can start digging. A few weeks ago, the chances of Trump and Ukraine President Zelensky administration signing such a deal looked slim. It did. I was happy to see this. I saw it this morning. I was like, sweet. Finally, it got taken care of. Because, again, I've said it before, and I've talked about this in previous videos. I'm all for this deal. It's good for the U.S., it's good for Russia, it's good for Ukraine. It benefits all parties. Because look, they got this one signed. It would not surprise me a week from now they'll sign one with Russia. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. But that's just me. Let's see. Trump suggested Wednesday that the pair's relationship had improved since then, characterizing the meetings as beautiful and expressing confidence that Zelensky wants to make a deal to end the war. That's a good sign. Now, Zelensky's flip-flopped a bunch of times, saying that he wants to end the war, and then I think personally he just wants more money. That's just my opinion. He doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't care about his people. My opinion, again, but I don't think he cares about these people. He's forcing people into conscription. He's actively kidnapping men off of the streets, and there's videos of people trying to escape Ukraine so that they don't get forced to fight in this war, because you've got thousands of people dying every single week. President Trump has said, even just the beginning of his campaign for this last presidential run, the killing has to stop. That's what he's said ever since this started. Anyway, the president had an impromptu and friendlier meeting with Zelensky in Rome on the sidelines of Pope Francis' funeral last week. Trump said Wednesday that the agreement would serve as an avenue for the U.S. to recoup funds it has provided to Ukraine throughout its war with Russia, a figure that State Department has placed at $66.5 billion. That's so much money, so much taxpayer dollars. That's insane how much we've just... I can't... Look, the U.S., you can argue what you want. The U.S. has single-handedly given the most money to fund this war than anybody else. Anybody. And again, it's just my personal thought. But methinks that Zelensky is just wanting more money. I'm happy that this got signed. Hopefully it leads to a peace deal. Hopefully Russia wants to get one done too. I'm all for it. Since beginning his second term just over 100 days ago, Trump has repeatedly insisted that the U.S. be repaid for at least part of the aid that Washington has sent to Ukraine to help fight Russia's 3-year-long invasion. Yes, again, I 100% agree with that. $66.5 billion. We need to recoup some of that. I wish we could get it all back. That's probably improbable, but I wish we could. But I know that's not going to happen. But it is unclear how much of the money will go towards repaying the U.S. Includes no provisions regarding any Ukraine debt obligations to the United States, despite accusations of treating Moscow more leniently than Kiev in protracted peace talks with both parties. Trump's ire was directed at Russian President Putin, whom he criticized for carrying out widespread strikes on Kiev despite U.S. officials' ongoing effort to secure a plan to end the war. I said it too. Zelensky, both sides, if they honestly wanted a peace deal to be made, they should have done a ceasefire. Do a ceasefire, stop bombing, stop having soldiers killed, your people being killed when you're trying to get a peace deal done. Do a ceasefire. At least do that much so that you stop the killing until you actually get a peace deal done, the minerals deal, what have you. While Putin on Monday announced a temporary ceasefire due to begin next week, there are a few signs that he is planning on a more long-term cessation in military activity. Russian strikes on Ukrainian port of city of Odessa overnight Wednesday killed 2 people and injured 15 more. Ukraine's state emergency services said in a post late Thursday. Meanwhile, Putin said at a public event Wednesday that a small number of Ukrainian troops are still holed up in Kursk, the only region of Russia partly occupied by Ukrainian troops, where both sides have recently said Kiev has suffered losses. Now, again, like I said, I will say I think this is a good thing. There's no reason why there shouldn't be peace in the region. Each side is just losing too many people. I think that there should have been a ceasefire. I'll say that one more time. Nope, not that one. There we go. And I think the minerals deal is good for both sides. Like I said, it lets Ukraine have the security that it wants. Now, not specifically saying troops, boots on the ground, what have you, but if you've got the U.S. has a vetted interest within Ukraine, within that region, if Russia decides to attack more, then the U.S. they're gonna say, hey, we've got people in country, we've got a vetted interest within Ukraine for minerals. You better knock off your crap. I think it's good for both sides again. But that is all I have for today. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me today. If you like what you saw, hey, hit the follow button, hit the like. You can also follow me on X at The Political Ray, and I'm on True Social at Political Ray. You can follow me there. You can subscribe on YouTube if you want to. I don't know why you would. Most of my stuff there doesn't even get. I'm pretty sure I'm shadow banned on there. But anyway, just come over to Rumble. I'm here live every morning, 7:30 Eastern, right ahead of the Rumble lineup. And again, I appreciate everybody hanging out with me today. I hope everybody has a fantastic Thursday, and I hope everybody has a great day. God bless. Take care of each other.